There's 3 bolts that hold the lower control arm on. There's 2 that come up from the bottom here, and 1 that's these thread into a block that's on the top. On the back there's I've forgotten what size sockets I put on there. There's a 7/8 wrench on the bottom and a 13/16 I believe on the top. Going to be stubborn. I shut the camera off and put some blaster on both of those. I'm going to try the 7/8 from underneath. See if I can loosen that bolt from underneath. It looks like there's a lock washer on the bottom of the head of the bolt that goes through from the top, and that might be keeping it from spinning. Coming very slowly. Okay, that's off. Now, these other 2 are 5/8. First one looks like it'd be easy to get to with a impact gun. The second one, not so sure. That's one of them. See if I can. Well, I might have a U-joint socket that might be able to do that. Let's get that and see what we can do with it. If I can't get it directly, I think with an extension I can. Okay, took me a while to figure out a way to approach this because that control arm was in the way of getting the socket, even with an extension or a swivel, up in there to get that last bolt. So what I ended up doing is I put both extensions on my bridge jack on one side, put it under that control arm, and I took both of the end retainers that keep the control arm positioned on the shaft. Took those both off, and I couldn't move it by myself. I wasn't strong enough, but with the bridge jack and the weight of the car, I was able to move that up there, and so I can find my proper socket now. I should be able to take it off. Just had the socket. Well, let's try this one. It's a swivel, and I don't need the swivel now, I don't think. But it should work. Okay, I just got hit in the mouth with the retainer from up there. So if you're doing that, watch for that. So all the bolts are loose now, and there's the retainer that fell off the top and hit me in the lower lip. So now I'm going to go lower the bridge jack and see if that will actually come off. I'll lower it slowly. There's no spring pressure or anything like that on it now, so it should be safe. There's still a bolt there. I don't know whether that bolt is permanently attached to the frame or whether it's removable. I don't recall. But that appears to be what is holding the control arm on now. It's just that it's rusted or something. So probably a crowbar. Or maybe a dead blow hammer. Let's try the dead blow hammer first. Drive the bolt up. I don't want to mess up the threads. Tough to see up in there. I wonder if now that I've got that out, if I can spin that bolt. was going to be safer if I'd lower the lift and put that thing below me where I can work on it, so that if it comes off, all it'll do is fall on my toes, and I've got steel-toed work boots with metatarsals on them, so that's better than it falling on my head. Okay, so I thought I had the video going and I didn't. Basically it was pretty simple. Put a 13/16 socket on the nut that was holding the rear end of the control arm through here, and it was able to spin it out. And I was able to, once I realized it was spinning, I was able to hold it with one hand, and with the other hand I used the impact wrench, and it came off. Just want to make sure I've got a picture of this, because I don't know whether I had it in there or not, but it was through this hole here. Big bolt. These are the other two that were on the front end. That's what holds your control arm on. So, as I was trying to say, I am going to wrap it up for today, and I'm going to do the other side the next time, armed with the knowledge that I gained today. And if I remember, I probably won't video the whole thing, but if I remember to video the removal of that lower control arm, and hopefully maybe we'll do a little bit better on the shock absorber. Maybe we won't unthread it. I did get it threaded back in, by the way. So that's a wrap for today. Got to clean up the tools and then clean myself up for dinner. Thanks for watching. So it's a new day. I started on the left-hand side, and just in case you're wondering how long it takes to accomplish all that, I set out some of the tools that I knew I needed, but I was far from accurate in remembering them all. So I did make several trips to the other side of the shop here to get the tools that I missed. So I've got the cotter pins out. The bolts on the ball joints were taken off, and they're put back on to catch the arm when it falls, or I should say the spindle. And unlike yesterday where I was beating on it with the pressure of the spring, and I was trying to take the bottom one off first. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on the top one first. And if you recall from the previous part of the video, that's putting pressure of the spring on the spindle here. Easier for me to hit it. So the top one's off. Now I need to have weight. What I did yesterday is I took the top nut off and this separated, and then I worked on the bottom. Today I'm going to try something just a little bit different. And I am going to put the jack under the spring, and I'm going to take the pressure off of that so that there's the weight of the spindle on that bottom joint, but the spring will not be pressing against the ball joint, making it difficult to remove. So I'm going to shut the camera off and set up the jack, and I'll be back. So putting that jack stand under, or the jack under there, didn't do anything for me, because as I jacked it up, instead of compressing the spring, it just lifted the whole thing up. So I'm going to have to do this kind of like I did yesterday, which is to take this bolt out, carefully until it comes off and separates the top. Keep my hands out of the way. I've got safety glasses on and a hard hat. It's close to coming off now. Spring won't go anywhere because the shock's still in there, and the spindle won't go anywhere either because it's still attached to the bottom ball joint, but it's going to come off of this top ball joint pretty violently. Well, it's off. Now I just have to separate the bottom ball joint from the spindle. So when I did this on the 74, I had actually strapped the frame down, and as a result, when it separated, it didn't bounce up like that. I did have jack stands under the back, but they were, actually it's a bridge jack, and it wasn't in contact with the frames, but it did limit how far it could go. So from here on out, the rest of the process is the same as what I did yesterday. So I'm not going to record it unless I come up with some major epiphany or I discover an easier way to do something. One thing I will do is after I take the upper control arm off, I'll put the vice grips in there on the shaft of the shock, so that I don't unscrew it from the inside of the shock like I did yesterday. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to somehow get this supported in the back so it can't tip up like that anymore. Okay, I got a bit better balance on the frame now. I had jack stands here, but they were up higher, so this frame was actually tilted toward the back. So I took those out of there and let the front end drop. And on the back, I removed some weight by taking the two rear tires off. And then that helped too. But the thing that really helped after that was I put a jack stand under the part of the rotor that houses the parking brakes in the rear. And so now I can lift the front end of it up, but it takes quite a bit of effort. So now I'm going to complete the job of taking this spring off, and unless I find some magical tip, that's going to be it for this video.